Early March is usually a quiet period for most NFL teams, but the Eagles were an exception to the rule on Thursday with two very important pieces of news being announced. The first one was concerning the future of the left tackle position, and the second involved a new coaching addition, adding some extra intrigue to the offensive coordinator by committee that the front office have seemingly built up. My name is Jenkins, and here is everything you need to know about these headlines. Before we get into it though, guys, you have been drafted with the 21st overall pick. We're not trading up, we're not trading back. We found our shiny new wide receiver, and they're currently watching this video, and all we ask them to do is catch this huge subscribe touchdown. We're going to sling it deep. We're trusting in you, we're lobbing you the content. If you could catch it and join the PSN army, that would be amazing. And on a separate note, guys, we have just launched our brand new merchandise. There are some really sick designs available, and if you fancy checking them out, the link is down below. And as always, your daily dose of Philadelphia sports coverage can be found at phillysportsnetwork.com. So the first piece of news came just days after some strange trade rumours involving Andre Dillard began to surface. Jason Peters, the man who had anchored the left tackle position for 11 years in Philadelphia, will be allowed to test free agency waters according to an official announcement from the team. The Eagles originally traded for Peters back in 2009. 9 Pro Bowls, 2 first-team All-Pro selections, and a Super Bowl later, and it's safe to say that JP will go down as a Hall of Fame tackle. But this decision was one the team simply had to make. In his end-of-season press conference, Howie Roseman acknowledged the fact that he hasn't always been able to separate personal ties to players from business negotiations. Darren Sproles and Jason Peters were two that immediately sprung to mind in that regard, and with both being given new contracts despite their eyebrow-raising age, it was time for Howie to finally cut the cord. Peters played at a high level for the Eagles last year, but the 38-year-old isn't getting any younger and has missed time in 23 games since the beginning of the 2017 season. Peters believed he could still play at a very high level, and he's not wrong, but with his replacement waiting in the wings, the Eagles had to do what's right for the long term. 10 months ago, the Birds traded up 3 spots in the NFL draft to select Washington State product Andre Dillard. The idea was that he would sit behind Jason Peters as a technically raw tackle before taking over the throne when ready. According to Pro Football Focus, he blew 7.8% of his assignments, which was the worst record of any tackle who had played more than 300 snaps. He also allowed a whopping 14.7% pressure rate, which is interesting, but we're forgetting that game where the Eagles just shoved him to right tackle and expected him to soar. He'd never played that position before, and even complained to the media, comparing it to being left-handed all your life and suddenly being asked to write an essay with your right hand. That should have been a cause for concern. For some reason it wasn't, and Dillard ended up being pulled by half-time after laying an absolute egg. But we all knew that was going to happen the second he stepped out onto the field, and I think they've skewed his stats massively. And whether this was a cause for concern or not, Dillard is entering his second season as an NFL tackle and his second as a first-round pick. Redshirting him for a second year in a row just to keep an ageless wonder around makes little sense and really cuts into the value that his rookie deal has. If you want stability for the long term, if you kept JP around, you'd get to year 3 and Dillard still wouldn't be a starting tackle, and then question marks are going to be asked, and it's just a little bit too late into proceedings to really maximise the value of that 5-year window that Howie Roseman originally set out to make. The big question mark now though hangs over Jordan Mailata's head. With Halapoulivaati Vaitai set to secure himself a fairly sizable bag in free agency, the Eagles need a backup they can rely on, and we're yet to really see a significant growth spurt from Mailata with his 3rd off-season in the NFL pending. We may see a developmental tackle being drafted into the mix, or potentially an old friend returning in free agency or through a trade. And even outside of the backup role, there's no veteran leader in Peters to help bring Dillard along anymore. He'll have Lane Johnson on the other side of the bookshelf, but this is very much a fresh page for the Eagles after doubling down on their investment and removing the training wheels. After Doug Peterson stated that he wanted JP back in 2020, this move is surprising, but it's at least a firm indicator that Howie Roseman meant what he said. The Eagles are getting younger and separating personal connections from business decisions, and frankly, that can only be a good thing. The second piece of news comes from ESPN's Tim McManus, who cites that the Eagles are bringing back a very familiar face to their offensive coaching staff. That man is Marty Mornhinweg, who can recently be accredited to helping Lamar Jackson to a 6-1 finish in his rookie season before declining to remain on the coaching staff after an internal promotion for Greg Roman pushed him into the dark. For Eagles fans, however, they'll remember his 9-year stint as offensive coordinator and assistant head coach under Andy Reid in Philadelphia. From a Super Bowl appearance to Michael Vick's Comeback Player of the Year season in 2010, Mornhinweg was a cornerstone in the Eagles coaching staff before it was dismantled at the end of the Andy Reid era. This of course also means that he overlapped with Doug Peterson when he was an assistant under Andy Reid, so the two already have some familiarity with each other. But it's interesting to note that his role is one of offensive consultant. The Eagles already decided to run an offensive coordinator by committee approach this offseason, with the appointment of Rich Scangarello as an offensive assistant and Press Taylor as a passing game coordinator. How much impact Mornhinweg's voice will carry really remains to be seen. Mornhinweg will bring just about every nook and cranny from Reid's teachings to the table, alongside some outside influence from his previous stops in New York and Baltimore. That last one you should take note of though, given how the Eagles were primed to pursue the Ravens quarterback coach for their offensive coordinator role earlier this season. The Eagles really have gone all out in bringing in outside influences, but there's a sense of comfort with this move, and one that should only benefit an offense built around the fundamentals that Mornhinweg spent close to a decade instilling in this franchise. But what do you think of today's news, guys? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at PhiladelphiaSN, or myself at Liam Jenkins PSN. I'll see you soon.